Man, just don't tell your wife. It's fine. It'll be
Yeah.
okay. She won't find out. It's not, no one will know about what happened.
Yeah, if you don't tell your wife you dropped 10K at the casino, then actually nothing will ever happen.
Exactly. Yeah. If you just continue to ignore the issue, it'll get better.
Hello, everyone. If we sound different, it's because we got kicked off of our previous unnamed recording device platform.
Yeah. The previous platform has had enough with squatters. So now we're trying some other ways of recording. And I'm really hoping that this works and isn't janky as all heck. I mean, we've recorded this way before.
We used to do it on Discord, and I don't actually know why we stopped. I don't remember why.
But, anyways, we're hoping this goes well.
Hopefully, this is A1 audio.
Yeah, we're hoping this goes better than some of the topics that we're going to talk about in this episode. Because, oh boy, I hope you all enjoyed the last episode on the O-Train. Because this time, O-Train 2, we're continuing the story.
I was gonna say, I think we should keep our standards a little higher.
Yeah, we
Better
can
than
reach a little higher.
terrible failure. Yeah,
Oh, they've moved some people. It's not a total failure.
that's true, actually.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit of a plus. But anyways, this is Standard Humans. I'm Aiden. That's Evan.
I'm Evan. Hi.
And special guest, Declan,
Hello.
transit expert, back again.
Thank you.
Armchair city planner.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the O-Train, the actual project, the main one we're here to talk about, the Confederation Line project.
Yeah. 'Cause
Otherwise
last
known
time-
as Line 1.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And last time, I guess we left it on a bit of a cliffhanger because we left off right before the actual planning for O-Train Line 1 started. Or I guess right before the 2010
Yes.
Ottawa municipal election. We talked a lot about like the history of transit in Ottawa and as well of the pilot project for what is currently Line 2, the one that uses the diesel locomotives.
Yeah.
But now we're getting into the real stuff, the real fun stuff that everybody likes to talk about.
And before we start real quick, I'm just going to give a little legend for people who haven't taken the Ottawa train. So Confederation Line, Red Line, Line 1, those are all the same. And then Trillium Line, Green Line, Line 2, those are all the same.
Thank you. Yes.
So this Confederation Line project, spoilers, went badly in some ways.
Wait, what? Hold on.
So a lot of
Dude,
the
no spoilers. I haven't gotten to the end of the series yet.
Yeah.
I'm still watching. I'm still waiting to see what happens.
So a lot of the like information here that we're going to be talking about is from a commission that was made by the provincial government to look into what happened with this project because it went so badly.
So this is kind of like how in Oppenheimer, it's the like interview with that sort of deposition he's doing is how the whole story is told. It's kind of like that. From the usual suspects.
It's
That's what's going on here.
it's more of an inquisitorial system rather than an adversarial one, which will come up later. So
Okay.
like there's a judge who is writing this and is the commissioner, and he is involved in asking questions and trying to seek out the truth kind of thing is his whole goal, and also make policy recommendations off of that. It doesn't actually have any it doesn't determine any legal liability or anything, this report. It's just for policy
Figuring out what
recommendations.
Pure information.
Trying to restore trust in the government kind of thing.
Okay, that's good to clarify because when you said inquisitorial, that just made me go straight to the Inquisition, which some might describe as a slightly adversarial relationship with the people they were inquisiting.
I wasn't expecting that.
So this is opposed to an adversarial system, which will come up later. So it's just our normal court system, right? Where the judge is just like a referee and two lawyers kind of fight each other and hopefully the truth comes out.
Like a little 1v1 stick and puck.
Yeah.
Two lawyers enter,
Yeah.
one leaves.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what's happening here. That's where we're getting all this information from. And there's two main parties in this transit project that we got to talk about. Last time we talked about Jim Watson being elected. That's one of the main parties. He's the leader of the city.
Yeah.
Jimothy. He's pro-transit. He is excited about transit, maybe a little bit too much sometimes. And then the other party is called RTG. That stands for Rito Transit Group, and they're a private consortium that was selected for this project. And that just means there are a lot of, or not necessarily a lot, but a bunch of companies stuck together into a consortium is what it is, kind of thing. I
Oh,
think.
interesting. I did not actually know that. So it's just like it's a lot of separate private companies kind of ganging up together in kind of like a Power Rangers Mighty Morphin becoming a giant robot that can do more than the individual parts, I guess is the idea.
I think, as I understand it, yes. Kind of. I don't think it's necessarily that many companies. No,
Mhm.
well, I don't know. I shouldn't
Well,
say
there are only
that.
5 Power Rangers, I think, right? So
Yeah.
that tracks.
Yeah. So when we talk about Jim Watson first, if we get straight into the planning process and some of the things that went wrong with it, maybe, or just the planning process. um,
Yeah. Interchangeable,
bef-
really.
Before Jim Watson was elected, there was the planning process started before that under Larry O'Brien, who we talked about a bit. And in 2009, there was a preliminary budget, which was given about 5% into the planning project, which said that the project would cost about $2.1 billion. And it might be off by 500 million up or down.
Which is a 25% margin of error, which is pretty large.
But again,
Yeah.
like you just said, we're like 5% into planning it. Like we've barely planned the
Yeah.
thing. These are some rough
Okay, that's fair
sketches.
enough then. We'll allow that.
Yeah, but
Ballpark.
if you know about this project a bit, it might be like, wait a sec, that actually does end up being the exact amount the budget ends up being in the end, which is a little bit weird, you might think,
Interesting.
for a very 25% margin kind of preliminary report. And it's because in 2010, during the election, Jim Watson promised to keep the project on budget and on time.
Oh, on time, on budget.
Mhm.
And the budget he was referring to was the 5% done in the planning process preliminary budget, which is kind of had some implications for the project later, like not being able to have certain things, certain cutbacks on the project early in the planning phase. And the on time, on budget mantra kind of dominated the planning phase a bit with that as well.
And
Uh,
again, this is like they're deciding or they're committing to a budget based off of like an incomplete plan. Like they haven't
And
started building it and aren't like sticking to the budget. They haven't finished planning it. They're like, no, we have to stick to this number.
it's like, well, anybody who has had any customer interacting job ever can probably relate to this. If it's like, oh, how much of that cost? Like, well, I'd have to really like crunch the numbers, but I'd say I don't know, like $2,000. It's like finally it's like, okay, well let's check it out. Okay, I crunch the numbers. It's $3,000. What? You said $2,000, and it's like, well, I told you that's not the actual number.
So this is like a whole other level up from that as well, because
Yeah.
at least in a customer service, you usually know what you're like wanting to get, at least like vaguely. They might still need to like figure it out a bit, but like with this, there's so many like ways that you could tweak the project to like increase or decrease the cost of the
Yeah.
project, like station design, the vehicles you use, the exact like
Amount of stations.
orientation. Yeah, exactly. There's so much that could potentially change, that could increase or decrease
Mhm.
the budget. And that's good. That's part of the process, right? If it's going to make the project better. Like, it's just insane that they commit to the budget this early.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also, that on time on budget thing kind of sidelines other potential, like you said, other like non-financial things like reliable transportation.
Like having a train that runs or that doesn't go off the tracks.
Yeah, or I think was specifically mentioned that platform screen doors, I think, were maybe taken away
Oh,
because of
god
it.
damn it. They cut platform screen doors because they wanted to stick to this stupid budget. That's so worth it. God damn it.
I think they also made the tunnel shorter. I don't know if that was necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but
Tunnel shorter?
the tunnel was going to go over or under U Ottawa as well, but instead it kind of
Mm,
comes up just before it.
I'm kind of neutral on that. I don't really care about that.
Yeah, honestly, if the overground stations were better insulated, I think it wouldn't matter. But since it's not insulated, it is a little bit annoying if you're
But then
waiting there, kind of.
you wouldn't have that cool little tunnel thing under U Ottawa with all those posters of weird faces.
Oh, that's true.
to get from the eastbound to the westbound.
Yeah.
So you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, yeah. Um, oh yeah, the other thing is that I don't think this was based off of Jim Watson even, but the provincial and federal governments also based their funding of the project off of this preliminary estimate as well. So they committed to funding 1/3 of the 2.1 billion, and if the city went over that 2.1 billion, the city would have to pay for the extra costs, kind of thing. Which
feels insane that they would commit to that. Like I can see random politician, well, not random, but like politician agreeing to be like, okay, we'll go off of this, but to also have the feds and the province being like, yeah, based off of this wildly incomplete plan, we'll fund 1/3 of it, but no more.
yeah, not a great yeah. Just even for more context, the plan was like I think fully completed like about 3 years later. So
Okay.
like this was
So
very early in the planning process.
3 years after everyone commits to this $2 billion number.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So then I wanted to talk about procurement models in the planning phase. So procurement model is just a way of getting a transit project, a way of a city acquiring a transit project, if you will. And there's kind of two ways of doing that identified in the report, or two like categories that they just give, which is like a public sector led procurement models and private sector led models. And we can just the public sector led we can go over quickly. These have been done for a long time. There's the design bid build and the design build approach. Basically the design bid build, the government contracts a company for designing and then contracts a company for building. And then for the design build approach, they merge the two roles into one company that does both. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, in the first one, design, bid, build, it's like you get the company to design it and then you bid it on who's going to build it and then they build it. Whereas with the other one, you just do the bidding before and they do both.
Yes. So for the Trillium Line project, we took a design build approach and we contracted and Canadian Pacific Railway did the design and build of the project. So one of the main like drawbacks, I guess, to this way of procurement is that if you don't have much in-house expertise, it can be very difficult to do because you have to manage the project still, you have to organize everyone, you have to do a lot of the other steps that aren't design and build, and you play an important role in supervising the project. But the pro is also is that you could play an important role in supervising project, which will become very clear as a pro, I feel like later in this. But you also have roles in like integration and coordination, and you have direct relationships with the contractors that you're dealing with to build this, which
Would be good.
which yeah, um, can and all of that like integration, coordination, direct contract relationships gives the government a lot of knowledge of any issues, and it gives them and the direct relationships gives the government more power to kind of remedy any problems that happen, and understand what the problems are. And then
So that's the public sector led ones, right?
yes, those are the public sector led, and then they just focus on one private sector led called a P3.
It should probably be ringing bells to folks who have like heard news about like transit or anything really before.
P3.
Yeah. A P3 is just a public private partnership.
That's the name, I
eh,
guess.
yeah, I think it's just called a P3 in kind of like Ontario and Canada. I think it's just our name
I don't
for
know.
it.
Maybe.
I might be wrong. Maybe it's just Ontario too. I'm not entirely sure actually. But it has got a few characteristics. It's usually with one private sector partner. So when we talked about direct relationships in the public sector one, do not have a direct relationship with most of the contractors working on this project. You just have one with like in this case RTG, the Rideau Transit Group, and that's basically it. There's maybe a few others, and also in these projects, the company is usually doing a lot more. They're doing design, construction, financing, operations, and maintenance. In this project, they do all of those except for operations. That gets done by OC Transpo. But yeah, the P3s usually operations last around 25 to 35 years. Government agencies require how the system will perform, while the private sector tries to figure out how to achieve those requirements. Payments are usually made at defined stages throughout the projects in like big lump sums.
So kind of like the gist with this one is that what we were talking about before with the public sector ones, how like the government was being kind of the project manager. They had to like have all the direct relationships with this like public-private partnership. It seems like it's very like private sector led, which is why it's in that category, in that you're just saying, hey, company, you go and figure out this other shit. So would they almost be then like kind of be a middleman between like a design bid build or a design build system? Like, because they're not doing the construction themselves usually, right? They're just like integrating all the other companies.
Yeah, they are required to basically do everything. They essentially control the project completely, and I think in this project specifically, they talk about a company called OLRTC that was set up by RTG specifically to integrate and kind of run this project.
Is that Ottawa LRT company?
I think so. It's at least Ottawa LRT. I don't know if the
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the drawbacks maybe about the central control is that the government usually has, they can set up performance standards. They have rights to information during the project, and they can levy deductions for poor performance, but it has a limited ability to like intervene in the actual work that's being done, as we'll kind of see later.
So if something is being done shittily, they're like, "Hey, stop that!" And no, all we can do is find them later when it's shit.
Yeah, all you can do is just be like, oh, if you're messing up, give me money. And that doesn't necessarily fix the actual problem.
Yeah. Then the contractor has less money, but then the work is still bad.
Yeah. And just a little bit of a history of P3s. They're actually pretty recent in their kind of invention. They've started in the 90s. That kind of operating and maintenance thing of 25 to 30 years kind of got developed after backlash from the Highway 407 in Toronto being leased for 99 years to a private company.
Yeah, that's insane. That's why we can't have that not be a toll road, is that it's a private company that owns the highway for, again, 99 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is unfortunate, because it would be nice to put cars less on the 401 to a highway a little farther out. But
farther out, yes, I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes, that's why it's so sad, is that this is a massive highway that's farther out, but still like bypasses Toronto.
Switch Route 1 is the toll road. There you go. I mean, obviously
You
this doesn't
can't.
solve the problem, but it would be nice.
I know, that would be excellent. I feel like that would solve a lot of traffic issues, but you can't because it's owned by a private company forever.
Aren't they in like Brazil or something too? One that owns.
I have no idea.
I believe they're international.
Probably.
Although this is just, I heard somebody say that once, so I have literally no proof of that.
I have no idea, but I would believe it. It's like how Ontario teachers seem to own half the world.
What do you mean by that?
Have we not talked about that? The like level of like infrastructure and like project investments that the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund has just around the world. Like they just own like major airports. Like they own a big chunk of like the electricity grid of Finland, I think. Just like random shit like that they've just invested in to make money, because it's one of the largest pension funds in the world.
I love that.
Yeah, they pop up if you follow finances at all. They just come up in weird places, and it's funny.
Oh, yeah, very good. I'll congratulate my mom on having such a stake in Finland.
Very good. Yeah, looking through their website is a journey. It's interesting. But anyways.
So the rationale behind these P3s, the reason they were invented is kind of to address cost certainty and schedule certainty. Like you just get to set the cost up front, and it supposedly, it can't go over that cost, basically. The private company will have to deal with it if it goes over that cost. And schedule certainty, I guess, if the private company doesn't deliver it on time, they're gonna lose a bunch of money. So
Hmm.
they'll probably deliver on time, right?
Yeah.
You'd think that.
You'd think that.
So it's basically the city trying to kick the responsibility down a level. Like we talked about how the feds and province were like, if this goes over budget, you have to pay for it. And the Ottawa's like, look, if this goes over budget, you private company have to pay for it.
Yeah, they also transfer the risk. Not only they also transfer the risk, like you just said, kind of thing. Um,
They attempt to transfer the risk.
importantly, in this project, they transfer all of the like geotechnical risk to RTG. And that'll come up later.
All this foreshadowing.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm also gonna say like the same things like 3 times over.
That's
during
okay.
this
You
project.
got to say what you're going to say, then say it, and then say what you said a little bit.
Yeah.
We're foreshadowing, and then we're going to get to like, oh no, who could have foreseen this happening?
No one.
Just from a basic definition of what you've set up.
Yeah, and also the reason for P3s was because they have a profit motive kind of thing, and that will lead to better financial decisions. Is the idea. And so there's some pros and cons. Risk transfer is good, because if something goes wrong, the city doesn't have to pay a large amount when that thing goes wrong, but it also comes at a large upfront cost, more for the transit. It also trades off. It avoids risk, but when you avoid risk, you're also giving complete like more involvement to the. You're also losing direct involvement in the project. Lose your ability to affect the project more if you give away the risk to a company. And when the risks are transferred to a private company, if there are schedule delays, the government is still going to be held responsible by the public,
Yeah.
whether even if it's all the private company that's done it all and it's their fault or whatever, the government's still going to be held.
Yeah, the public, I feel like, won't sift through the document.
I don't think
Besides you
most
here,
people.
but
Yeah, I don't think most people know what the Dorito Transit Group is, let alone like where they go protest to try and figure out
yeah,
what's wrong.
exactly. They're just like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go protest the Parliament Hill for this.
Yeah, it's fundamentally Ottawa's project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another problem that can arise is if the parties are unable to work together, it can turn into an adversarial relationship, like I talked about, right? Where they're just kind of fighting each other to try and get the truth out. But if you've seen like legal dramas, it can be very dramatic, an adversarial system kind of thing.
Yeah,
Not necessarily conducive to teamwork.
Mhm.
And
I would
maybe
imagine.
making a good project kind of thing. And
Yeah,
then
working
there's
together usually involves not trying to make the other person look bad.
Usually. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be very bad if they just spent more time trying to say who really bears the burden of the risk and should pay for the risks that have incurred than making a good project.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also there's private sector innovation, which can be seen as like a pro of P3s, right? The private sector's got tension, they've got competition between each other, but sometimes this innovation may only really lead to stuff related to profit motive and not the public interest.
Are you telling me that the 40th flavor of Fruit Loops isn't in the public interest? The profit motive is never wrong.
Also, in Canada, yeah, you said they have competition. In Canada, many large companies like this actually sadly don't. So this one, I guess, does, but I just feel like we have quite a few monopolies going on.
Well, I think, okay, to add on to this, it's like the idea is, right, that like the maintainer of the project will be in competition with the designer of the project to be like, you should design something that I can maintain easily so that I can make more money. And then the designer will also want to make something, I guess, cheap or whatever. But
Yeah.
another problem that sometimes happens with this, and this isn't necessarily in this part of the report, but comes out throughout, is integration between these people, like getting those people to actually have that conversation is seemingly difficult in a P3. I'm not entirely sure why, but sometimes controlling how the project is integrated is very difficult. And if the private company fails to integrate different contractors together, it can really mess up a project.
Oh, that makes sense. So if they're not able to like get like the various designers and builders and whatnot to like work together, you can be designing some shit that isn't gonna work or be building stuff in like weird ways or what have you. Like people need to work together on this. Which is
Yeah.
easier said than done because there are also just individual, like I don't want to say like motives, but things that like a design firm might be want to do that might just conflict with the overall vision or goals of the project, even if it aligns more closely to like the individual part of their project. You got to look at the whole, which is hard.
Yeah. We're just recently, like, we found something wrong with the O-Train system that was like clearly a lack of integration caused it, kind of thing. And the companies just did not communicate with each other very well.
You said you did find something like that?
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
have to get into it. Was that the axles?
It was the restraining rails.
Ah, the restraining rails. Yeah, we'll get to that at like I guess whenever the last episode comes out.
Yeah. It's
That's a
just
hot mess.
It's just, yeah, building stuff for European and American standards and those clashing and not being well integrated.
That's a good
The
example.
story
Like
of Canada.
yes,
Yeah.
your train has to work well with the rails that you're building.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of important.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's most of that, and the effect this had on the effect that the P3 had on Ottawa and RTG's relationship was, like I said, it kind of devolved into a adversarial system where the city was just trying to enforce its contractual rights and get fees to try and fix problems. And though there was an intention for a team approach, it kind of and there was some good team approach throughout the project. It wasn't all just awful. Uh, there, there was some problems. Now, that was a long thing, but now we can talk about the train procurement itself.
Hey,
'Cause
Okay.
those are the
trains-
things.
Let's get some trains. Let's get some snaky boys.
Trains. The in this as per the P3 contract, the private partner was 100% responsible for procurement of the train and would need to subcontract a train manufacturer. After this project, usually private partners are no longer willing to do this part of the project and take on this risk.
Well,
Um,
how does it get done?
Usually the city does it. Whatever the private partner doesn't do, kind of thing. And so the city wanted, as we talked about with the Delcan report and stuff, the city wanted a light rail vehicle that was electric, low floor, and worked with CBTC. That is a big thing, the working with CBTC, because that requires really good integration of two companies. But we'll talk about that. Sorry.
That is important. You don't want your trains running into each other.
Yeah. But okay, basically with the train procurement, there are not actually that many train providers that RTG could choose from. There was like the report says there was like 4 options that they had, and it was Bombardier, Alstom, CAF, or Siemens.
And is that just because of the Canadian content requirements?
No, I don't think so. Because well, yeah, we'll see the Canadian content
We'll get
requirements
to
in
it.
a
Okay.
second, and Alstom had to pivot a lot to try and meet those requirements.
Yeah. I guess. Well, is the reason it's only those 4 because it has to be like built reasonably close, as in like, in North America?
Um,
Or
yeah, it does have to be built like 25% in Canada because of Canadian content requirements that Ontario has. But I don't I don't actually know why this report only lists these 4. I guess that's the evidence they were given. Those were the ones interested in this contract. And there's not really that many train manufacturers active in North America. Bombardier is the only one on this list actually from Canada or the US. And then, and then Bombardier and Siemens were already in exclusive agreements with other bidders for the O-Train project, so RTG couldn't contract with them. So RTG tried to pick CAF, which is a Spanish train manufacturer, and the city told them that the CAF train didn't meet the service proven requirements, so Alstom was RTG's last choice, and they got them in last minute, and they did not have much time to prepare their bid. And so that led to some problem.
Okay, so again, the first two, they just had other contracts, and so they couldn't meet this. And then the third one, the city just nixed because they said they didn't have a proven track record.
Yeah, they didn't have service proven requirements, which I can highlight in a second.
Yeah.
And then and this is also a theme that happens during this project for some reason, is that they're actually doing it. They're actually holding the company accountable, being like, oh yeah, the CAF train, it doesn't meet the service proven requirements. And then immediately they're like, oh yeah, Alstom, you're fine. Definitely. They definitely
Did they also not have service proven requirements?
They also did not meet service proven requirements. But first, just quickly, there's Canadian content requirements. The trains had to be 25% Canadian content, which is just like 25% of the total final costs. Had to be Canadian labor and stuff.
And
And
play like Tragically Hip in the cars and stuff.
yeah.
Exactly. That would actually be a funny way to get around it, is to just do some intellectual property nonsense and say that like just pay a like sub or like shell company like 25% of the cost and like play some music at some point and boom, manufacture the rest of it in Japan or something.
Yeah.
Play
Easy.
music in the trains or something. That's
Great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the problem with these Canadian contact requirements is there's a fun fact that Alstom actually hasn't manufactured or assembled light rail vehicles in Canada before. So they ended up having to assemble the trains in the new maintenance and storage facility, which was not made for manufacturing, with a completely inexperienced workforce and unproven new suppliers, which caused some delays later on.
Well, I'm glad they didn't go with that other company because they didn't have the service proven requirements.
Yeah, so wait, they built them in the maintenance facility, like one of the maintenance sheds where they just store the trains.
In the Belfast yards, I think it's called, for the O-Train. The brand new maintenance facility also is an important
that's what I was just thinking. How did they even have a maintenance facility if they didn't have a project yet?
They had to build one.
Okay, that was just the first thing they did, basically, or one of.
Yeah.
So now they have a place to build their trains.
Yeah.
Oh my god, they're also assembling a freaking train factory in this project. That's insane.
I think they had to bring some people up from New York, because I think they have built some trains in New York to help build these trains.
Sorry. I'm just looking up where this place is. 805 Belfast Road.
Yeah, it's right beside
Where is
the rail yards, or
train yards?
oh yeah, train yard. I keep saying rail yards. It's the train yard. Yeah.
Oh,
which is unfortunately not train yards anymore.
And
it's just a neighborhood now.
It is now listed as it is now listed as the maintenance, storage, and administrative facility.
Yeah, and this is the main storage and maintenance facility for the project. They're making a new one though. Okay, but
this is insane. Like, I can kind of see some of the arguments for the Canadian content regulations, but like, if you're gonna buy a freaking thing, buy something good. My God, if you want something like with a proven service record, just like buy a good like European or like Japanese model. Like, they make good shit. Same with like buses and whatnot. Like, you can just buy other people's shit. It will improve our cities so much.
Well, especially if again they have these standards of working that need to exist.
Okay, so that's first insane thing they did was just assemble them in the maintenance facilities.
Yeah, and then here's the service proven requirements. By the way, just the vehicle has to be the major vehicle has to be in service. The light rail vehicle, it has a minimum of 10 vehicles in service for a minimum of 2 years. The vehicles have to have been operated in a similar climate to Ottawa, and they have to have obtained a minimum of in-service mileage of 50,000 kilometers or whatever. Basically, they have to have actually been used in a similar place. And
for like time.
the first fun fact about this train is that it was the first commercial use of it.
Oh, so
This
it
train has never
absolutely
been
did
used
not
before.
meet.
It absolutely did not meet the requirement.
It didn't meet even a single one.
Now, there is a bit more to the story. The argument they made, right, is that it was similar and modeled off of another train they had called the Duelist, the Sidnus Duelist, which is kind of similar, but they had to change virtually every part of the design to meet the city's specifications for capacity, speed, and climate, and combine those all into a single vehicle. Also, as said before, when looking at the Delcan report, a light rail vehicle hadn't been combined with a CBTC signaling system before. This this is a brand new thing. They basically can't find a surface-proven vehicle that has done this before because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and again, going back to like the types of transits even that we talked about last time, this is a tram train that's operating in a subway. And if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the biggest LRTs in the world, like, or at least in North America.
When this report was written, it was the largest or the longest LRV or light rail vehicle in North America.
Wow. Already? Because it's getting longer.
Yeah.
No, like the trains themselves.
Oh.
Not
Really?
the size of the track, the actual
Oh,
trains.
okay. I was gonna say no way.
Everything bigger is an actual metro because we're comparing them to other like trams and like streetcars and things for the most part.
I thought you meant like range. I'm like, really? Yeah.
No, the actual trains. They're making a really oversized streetcar, basically.
Real long fellas. Yeah.
Yeah. More so than any other city in North America has sought to do.
Yeah.
Or thought to do
Must
yet.
be long.
Yeah, I forget how long is the Toronto streetcar? It's like
Not very long.
it's 30 meters, which I think is like 15 meters shorter than one car on this light rail vehicle, and they stick the two cars together and run them.
Yeah.
So it's like 90 meters in total.
Versus like 30 for like a Toronto streetcar.
Yeah. So pretty long. I think the Toronto subway is like, isn't it like 130 meters long or something? So
something like that. Yeah.
Definitely a good bit shorter than that, but a very long tram vehicle.
Mhm.
Also, the Duelist had not been operated in a climate similar to Ottawa's.
Because it had not been operated. Oh, the Duelist. Okay.
The Duelist, yeah.
The train they actually made.
Anywhere. Yeah.
The actual train they made also hadn't done that requirement.
Yeah. I mean, that one's been used a fair bit, I think, right? Just not in a similar climate.
Yeah.
Where's the Duelist?
I think a good bit in France. And I think it's in North America. But I would need to double check. Let's check.
Looking it up, but I'm also sure that like I could have like, oh yeah, there's a lot of France on here. Some Ireland.
Yeah.
Ooh, Dublin. Very cool.
Oh, it's on the
Netherlands.
Is it on the
Spain.
It must
Might
be.
Oh, St. Petersburg has one. Nottingham, Istanbul,
Cool.
Melbourne has a few. Adelaide, Sydney.
Well, everybody's digging these things.
Yeah, there are quite a few.
Is
Jerusalem,
Moscow not
Dubai.
a similar? Wait, is Moscow not a similar climate to Ottawa?
It's St. Petersburg and
Or St.
I don't know, I
Petersburg,
would have
say?
thought.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the report says it hasn't been, but
Also, this has got a lot of
know.
trains on it. It says Alstom Citadis.
Also,
Yeah.
to be fair, that some of these could have been put in after it was done for Ottawa.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Oh no, wait, sorry. I think this is
Oh, is it just where the company is?
no, this is where any of the Citadis trains are. Though it says Citadis Spirit is a different one.
Yeah.
It
Well,
doesn't have
Citadis Spirit
Duelist.
is just Ottawa.
Ottawa and will be soon other places. Because Metrolinx
Why?
is going to use it for Line 6 in Toronto.
Oh,
And I think maybe one or two other of the LRTs.
I think
Huh.
they're going to use it in Quebec City too, right? I think.
No, Quebec City's buying different shit, aren't they? They're buying real like cool French or like
oh
nice
yeah,
French
wait, I
trains.
heard that.
Yeah.
You're right.
It seems like the Quebec
right,
City
Quebec
tram
City
is
or
going to be based.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, I might have been mixing up models, but the Citadis trains have been used elsewhere. or in quite a few other places.
Wikipedia says Quebec is buying them.
Oh, okay.
I don't, but I
I think
think
it
I
is
heard the same
Alstom.
thing you heard.
I think it is Alstom, but it might be different models,
Okay, well,
maybe.
I digress.
Yeah.
We got these trains. There might be some problems.
Which makes it more surprising that all these places are in this train.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that too.
Yeah, I think Metrolink's got like a bulk order, was kind of the thing.
Yeah.
And when they ordered it, the O-Train hadn't opened yet, so they didn't know about all these issues. And now they're, I think, a little committed. And hopefully Otto has been figuring out a lot of the issues that comes with them. And
Yeah, we're doing the alpha testing.
Yeah.
I slightly trust Toronto Transits a little bit more to like not open it
Not
without
goof
finishing
around.
the project.
They are
Partly
refusing
because
to open oh yeah.
I was gonna say partly because of Ottawa's very public failure, and them specifically saying we don't want an Ottawa situation happening here.
Yeah.
I feel
Wait,
like
Declan, what'd you say?
I
You said
feel
they're
like
refusing?
that must
Oh,
be
sorry.
why like the Eglinton Crosstown is also not opening. They don't
Oh,
want it.
man.
I mean, they're
I'm
fully
not-
just not done with construction on that one.
Yeah.
They're still figuring that out.
Oh,
But they
really?
have. I have seen politicians specifically say we don't want another like Ottawa situation happening here.
I live right by there. I
Yeah.
want it to open so bad.
No, it'll be so good one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be so cool.
Maybe next year. We'll see.
Yeah. So just some other like in the planning phase to just highlight some other new things about this project because there is a lot of new parts about this project and the report kind of says that it's kind of okay that you did all these new things, but you should have actually planned the extra time that it takes to do new things and like try these things and have not expected it to go as well as using a service proven vehicle or something that's been done before. Like the city had never made an electrified LRT before. They hadn't used the P3 project before of a design, build, finance, maintain project. They hadn't built a infrastructure involving a tunnel, and they were getting support from Infrastructure Ontario, who also hadn't built that. They hadn't contracted something as complicated as the O-Train Line 1. The Citadis Spirit wasn't service proven, as we talked about just now. This train's the light rail vehicles hadn't been combined with CB before. Alstom hadn't built in North America before, or at least with its light rail vehicles, and OC Transpo hadn't operated a light rail system like this.
I know that's what I want to people to keep in mind too. Is that if remember, Ottawa hasn't run a system like this before. They are jumping into this very blind. Like they've had a 5-stop diesel locomotive subway train that they've operated for like a couple decades. This is a totally different beast that they're jumping into.
Let's do something nobody's ever done before for this. We're the ones.
Though actually, if we think back to it, the whole point of the P3 is that you get the private company to do a lot of this. So has the Rideau Transit Group had a lot of experience building these kinds of projects?
Well, the Rideau Transit Group does have experience in building a lot of projects. I don't think they had built a tunnel before like this. But I think at least the report I think found that it was like reasonable to trust RTG with this type of project. It was like they had experience in stuff like this, I guess.
That's good. I mean, that is the main point of using that type of system.
Yeah.
Even if they are delving into a few new things.
Yeah. So that's most of the planning phase. That went from like 2009 or whatever or even 2010 probably kind of until like 2013 when the construction phase started. And just to go over some like quick things from the construction phase, some of the problems that happened during the construction phase, like some of the problems that led to delays that'll come up later. There was inadequate coordination by the RTG, insufficient planning by Alstom, the building of the vehicles in a maintenance and storage facility led
That
to
is
some
also brand
delays.
new.
That's also
that
brand
blows
new.
my mind every time you say it. Like what?
Mm.
What? How did you think building a new factory was a good idea for this? Not even building a new factory, just building it in your shed. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Alstom's new North American supply chain that they had to build up also caused problems. And then the handling of the Alstom, they're called Thales, the company that was putting in the signaling system. So like the Alstom
Oh,
Thales relationship.
how do I know that company?
I don't know if
How do
I'm
I know
even
that?
saying it right, but
I think it's Thales, but
Thales. Okay.
what that pops out at me so much. You know why?
I don't know what else they
I
do,
recognize
honestly.
this logo. What the heck? This is actually bugging me.
I do not.
Why does this logo look so familiar? They probably just have an office building around me.
Probably.
I think I looked up their website and it's a picture of Toronto. So
Yeah, that adds up.
maybe in Canada too.
Sorry, just opening their website, and one of the things at the little carousel at the top of the page is about the Polish Navy and their involvement in it.
Yeah, when I googled it, it said they're looking to hire 1,000 software engineers in Romania by the end of 2021. So these guys are all over the map.
Okay, yeah,
Oh,
it seems like it.
yeah. Maybe that's why they weren't talking to Alstom as much as they should have.
Busy hiring Romanian software engineers.
Yeah. They were doing other things, you know.
Yeah.
So generally just a failure to integrate systems was kind of present in construction phase. And so then 2016, 3 years into the construction, this is like 50 meters away from the tunnel being completed, and the tunnel is suddenly vertical. There's a sinkhole.
Huh.
Sinkhole on Rito Street. Um,
Oh, wait. I remember that.
yeah. I like, even though I feel like I was like barely sentient when this happened, it like I don't I can remember this picture that like the
Yes.
online
What year?
pictures of it.
What year? Exactly.
It was 2016.
Yeah, I totally remember that because my sister's prom had to like change location.
Oh,
Oh
that's
my
why I
god.
remember it. I thought I was confusing it
Yeah,
with another one, but no, that was the prom that I went to. It was in 2016,
yeah,
and that had to change.
Oh my
yeah,
That was
god.
the big story.
yeah. It
Wow.
was a big deal.
Yeah, big implications on the city's transit and a high school prom.
Yeah,
Who can say what is more important,
yeah,
more consequential?
Uh, who can say?
yeah.
It was somewhat consequential for the project, I'd say.
Mm. A giant hole in it.
Giant hole in the ground. It causes some, and like one of the biggest problems is that it's like it put this giant hole in the ground right before they finished the tunnel, and so it really delayed them connecting up the whole system because it's like right in the middle of the line, and being able to like test on half of the line was pushed back a lot. Basically, it's estimated that it pushed the project back like 6 to 8 months.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, and again, it was in the center of the system, so it was kind of crucial for the testing of the project. And yeah,
Makes sense. You
so
got a big hole. Got to fill in the hole. Got to do a new tunnel.
Mhm.
At least you can make that part cut and cover, I guess. But
This just brings to mind that one image of a sinkhole in Japan. I think it was in Tokyo. And it's like it's a very comparable looking sinkhole actually to the Rito Street one, and they fixed it in 6 days. And then there's that picture of I think it was Eastern Europe, but it may as well be Canada as well, where it's like a little kid like standing right by a pothole on the road, like a huge pothole on the road, and then like her as an adult standing next to the same pothole on the road.
yeah, that sounds about right. Japanese
Yeah,
like maintenance and repairs and stuff is
they're on
insane.
it.
Like the level of which like they are on it is so mad. Like I think what was it?
Mhm.
It was like a massive train station that needed repairs. I forget which one it was. And they decided that they were going to do it between when the last train left at night and the first one in the morning, which I think was only like a 4 hour period or something. And they managed to do it. They hired like 600 or 1,000 people or something to like all dive into the project immediately and get what should have been like weeks or months worth of work done in like a few hours.
TGC, take note, please.
Seriously. Yes.
Oh my
It can be done.
I'm tired
I
of
need to
having to
look
take replacement buses to my soccer games I watch.
Yeah, I need to look up which one that actually is. I forget if it was a train station or a subway station, but they can do some shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Definitely not what the vibe that RTG was giving off here.
No, I feel like Ontario or just Canada Transit, you can barely clean all the stations in the time between the last train and the first train.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was the start of kind of two large pressures that can kind of help explain some of the future decisions of the city and RTG. So RTG now faced significant financial pressure, both from the cost of the sinkhole itself and the delays it created. And it says it potentially cost up to $500 million because of mostly the delays.
That makes sense because if we remember in the private partner or in the P3, basically the city's only tool is just like find them more. So now there's a giant sinkhole that's going to take them 6 months to fix, and all the city can do is hit the like find more button to try and get them to
Yeah.
fix the sinkhole faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is also in a way a kind of a success, right? Of the P3, the city transferred all the geotechnical risk to the RTG, and the technical risk materialized in a massive hole.
Pretty much one of the worst case scenarios for them.
And they
Yeah.
had to pay for it, not the city.
That is some 4D chess.
Now, one of the problems was that this kind of also led to like the destruction of the relationship between the city and RTG. Like at this point, they start to kind of hate each other because they get into a proper dispute about what caused the sinkhole. RTG says the sinkhole was actually caused by a improperly installed fire hydrant, and
Oh, okay. How improperly?
Yeah, how that I don't know much about geotechnical engineering, but that seems like a stretch.
I I forget what it said. I think it was a investigation done by RTG that they said that off of. So I don't know.
I don't know, maybe it's plausible. I'll buy it, sure, but
The city blamed it, of course, on the tunneling done by RTG.
Like,
Um,
I'm no geotechnical engineer, but one of those things seems a lot more likely to cause a sinkhole to me. I don't know. Digging a gigantic tunnel underneath the city or putting in a fire hydrant.
no, but Ottawa
yeah.
actually has they just need massive water pressure through all of their fire hydrants. So they have tunnel bore sized pipes for all of their fire hydrant. Each one
Yeah.
gets an individual pipe about the size of a subway car. So you can
Yeah.
so you can put out any fire
Yeah, for sure.
immediately whenever it
You could,
happens.
you only need one fire hydrant for every 5 kilometer radius. Just hits that range.
Exactly. Yeah. You
Yeah.
just shoot it up and then it just rains on
Yeah,
everything.
just make it rain.
Yeah. This dispute was, led to litigation, right? Or at least arbitration. And so RTG, and the city were suing each other. But since they both wanted to, reach the revenue, they wanted to complete the project as quickly as possible. They had to like put it off, settle and do the deal with the disputes after the project was done. So this was
This
just
isn't
looming
over.
over their heads. Yeah.
The entire time.
The
Okay.
entire time there's like an unsettled dispute of worth like 100 million or something dollars and or more over who caused the sinkhole kind of thing. And that kind of leads to a very bad relationship between and part of this is that I'm not entirely sure why, but RTG kept giving the city kind of wrong schedules. Like they said they'd complete the project by this point, when realistically they were not going to complete the project by that point. And so that kind of kept building up political pressure on Jim Watson as well.
That's kind of to
Which
spite at that point, or
I
I mean, obviously nobody knows. At least we don't.
I think the report said that they found it was like this was like what's the word, malicious.
Oh,
It was despite them.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it, or to try and leverage whatever they could kind of to get out of their financial situation. Um, and yeah, that's kind of the consequences of the Rito Street sinkhole. And then they, went and did the rest of the construction kind of thing. And now we can kind of talk about finishing construction and testing. So this is like we're almost done the project kind of thing.
Mhm.
And first of all, I gotta introduce some new characters here, kind of thing.
A new arc is about to happen.
The city is ultimately responsible for the safety of the project, right? These are powers that Transport Canada has and delegated to the city, and that power is ultimately given to the city manager, who is, I think, did I write that down? I think this is right. Steve Kanalakos. Steve? I can.
Let's go with Steve.
Maybe I'll just call
Oh yeah,
him
Steve Kanalakos. Or Steve
Yeah.
Kanalakos.
And there was also the Minister of Transport, John Manconi, who is also important here. Was John Manconi
Sorry.
actually the city?
Sorry, I just googled Steve Kanalakos. If it was like he was actually the Ottawa city manager, and the first thing I get is a tad of a spoiler, I guess. City manager Steve Kanalakos steps down effective immediately. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
Because
just
he just did such a good job that he finished early and just decided to
done.
step down. Is done.
Yeah, he's
What more
finished.
can you do?
Yeah,
yeah.
safety accomplished.
So you can tell Steve was very good at his job. It definitely nothing went wrong. So throughout the project, again, P3s are paid out in milestones, and one of the milestones is this part is also there's an independent certifier. I think I might mention a few times that was here throughout the project. They are a company that was selected at the start. All they do is kind of review the documents and reports prepared by RTG in the city. They don't actually perform any individual assessment or validation themselves, the independent certifier. So if the city and the RTG agree on something, then the certifier doesn't really do anything. They just kind of can just move the project forward.
You just give a thumbs up from a distance.
So for some of the things that are going to happen, the independent certifier isn't really responsible for stopping this when RTG and the city are colluding to do this.
Oh, so if they want to bypass some safety regulations, say, and they just both agree to do it, this independent
Yeah.
certifier can't stop them and say no, that's not right.
Yeah, no. They'll still sign off on it kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
So first we've got substantial completion, which is the point in the project where basically all the construction is done. All the main parts of the project are completely finished with substantial completion. There's just like a few minor deficiencies that can still outstanding that don't actually like materially affect the system running. And RTG, under serious financial pressure, wants to reach the substantial completion goal, because then they'll get a payout of $250 million kind of thing. So they are
Understandable.
really want to reach this goal. And the city is also under some political pressure. At least Jim Watson is under political pressure because of all the missed deadlines that are being kind of given by RTG. So I think, here there was, I think, 3 times that they revised the deadline for this project, and each pushed back the project by about 6 months. From like 2017, they started to push back the project because it was supposed to be in May 2018. Then it got pushed back to November 2018, and then got pushed back to March, which then got pushed back to August. Okay, wait, one of those was, but yeah, basically they kept pushing back the project, and this put political pressure on the city. And the other thing was that there was pressure on both sides, but there was also a very real thing that the system was not performing very reliably. And
That's real as hell.
everyone knew that there was problems with the system and it was unreliable. And this was another just kind of pressure or problem.
Yeah.
And so those things kind of then helped lead to the poor decision making that will happen in a second here. So substantial completion, like I said, is when the project is basically all completed, whatever. there was a first submission in April 2019. RTG tried to say, guys, we've completed the project. It's done. Give us our money. Okay. And the city took like a strict approach to the substantial completion and said, there's 130 issues with your project right now. You haven't successfully run 15 double car trains yet. 25 out of 34 of the trains wouldn't be able to be used because of defects. There was issues with safety, incomplete engineering, and issues with the vehicles, and obviously the doors. There was issues with.
It was just definitely not done. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're keeping going. There's more issues.
I think it's crazy to realize that they very much knew there was a problem with the doors before they opened the system. If you
Okay, that was a known issue. That's not just, oh God, we're hitting crush load all at once. They knew that was going to happen.
This was a problem.
Yeah.
God damn it.
How can we solve this? Why?
What if we just do it and we hope it works?
Yeah.
If our vibes are just good enough, the system will just work.
Yeah. There was also issues with the supervisory control and data acquisition system. This has to do with like maintenance and monitoring it was not working. The communication-based train control system had problems. The stations and winter performance also had problems, and the tunnel ventilation had problems. And there was a lot of problems.
So there's problems with everything, essentially. You're like listing all the elements of a train system.
Yeah. It's like, so there's problems with the tracks and the trains, and then the trains working, and then the stations.
And the stations and the maintenance and the tracking the trains and
Yeah.
making sure the trains don't crash into each other.
Yeah.
Just like minor things.
Yeah.
So that was in April, and then in July of 2019. So that's what's that? April, July.
Wait, 2019?
Yeah, both were in 2019.
Oh yeah, I forgot that I took it to work like immediately after it was finished. Yeah.
Yeah. So like 4 months after this first one, there's a second submission, and many of the issues were just unresolved in this second submission.
Yeah.
There was a list of issues, and they just said like not resolved. They weren't closed or whatever. But this time, the city, again, the pressure and everything, the city was like, well, these are basically minor deficiencies at this point,
Maybe the public won't notice.
And again, they had major issues with everything, and now 4 months later, the city's like, yeah, they fixed it.
They fixed it. Not even all the things have been like addressed.
Or not even that they fixed it, just that them not fixing it is fine. It's almost done now.
So they're like, I'm too impatient. Give me the train already.
Some of them just said like in progress, I think, with the no timeline. And yeah. But
hey, you gonna fix this? Yeah. Okay, good enough for me.
All of that sounds like easy things that you can do with a fast follow software update after the fact.
Yeah.
Even the city had consultants that they had hired to kind of help them understand what was going on. They said the system was a 3 or 4 out of 10 for readiness. And so the report kind of says that any like optimism in these being achieved after this is kind of very much misplaced. But the city wanted to move to trial testing whether the system was ready or not, kind of thing. And
what if we don't fix it, but then it works?
Yeah. And again, because the independent certifier, if they both agreed to treat it as minor deficiencies, the independent certifier couldn't do anything, kind of thing. It was on to trial testing, and trial testing is the big thing. This is what is usually talked about, I feel like, if you know anything about the problems here, or if you're talking about what went wrong in the system. Which, as we can see, there was a lot of other things going wrong, but it resulted in partially, which trial testing is just running the system like it would normally be run, obviously just without any people on it, kind of thing. And in this case, it was...
I actually witnessed the Waterloo LRT trial testing, and for the later ones, they had a bunch of sandbags piled up in the seats.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh,
yeah,
very cool.
That's smart.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt they did. I don't. Maybe they did, but specifically, this was supposed to run for 12 consecutive days. just operate normally. Now, the city came up, or the city and RTG came up with criteria for this trial running in 2017, or they first came up with the criteria in 2017, and it kind of outlined, because the project agreement mostly outlined just that it had to be 12 days and a few other things, but wasn't really a good set of criteria on its own. They kind of had to set up more specifics. But in 2017, they didn't necessarily know all the things they could have, so many things were left